Hello there everyone. So several months ago I decided to swap out my old unreliable fogger system on my two gecko vivariums up here for a shiny new rain system. Now I had a quick look around online, managed to find a rain system at a price I couldn't ignore. It was on sale, so bought it. A few days later it turned up, I got it all fitted in, tested it, and I couldn't have been more happy with it. It's been absolutely brilliant. However, 3 to 4 days in, a glaring problem became apparent, and it appears I'm not the only person that's got this problem. And it's not with this specific type of rain system either. It applies to quite a lot of rain systems, and that is that the volume of water that it pushes through the nozzles is just huge. I mean, it was flooding the vivariums. After every 4 or 5 days we were having to drain the vivariums out, and having planted vivariums as well, it was, you know, washing all the nutrients out the soil and leaving the plants in standing water, which isn't good. So I needed to find a solution to it, and pretty quickly. So the first thing that comes to mind is to reduce the amount of time that the pump's on for, which is a sensible thing to want to do. Other than almost every timer on the market, whether it be digital, mechanical, computer controlled, whatever, only generally allows you to go down to increments of 1 minute, and my timers are already set to 1 minute. So I set about looking for a seconds timer, or a timer that goes down into seconds. And that's where I hit my first hurdle, and that is they are like rocking horse poop to find. Really, really hard. There are a few out there, but they're generally of two types. And the first type is a hacked minute timer. So it's a general digital minute timer. Someone's gone in, changed the firmware in it so it goes down into seconds, which at face value seems perfectly fine, but they've proven themselves to be highly unreliable. They'll break down after a couple of months, and I've heard nothing but bad reviews of them, so I left them well alone. Now the other type are the higher quality ones. Now these are generally used in hydroponics. The downside to them is they are ludicrously expensive. We're talking 50, 60, 70, 80 quid, and they're not particularly pretty or small either. And I generally couldn't warrant the price of them for this setup, so I had to go down a different route. So if I can't reduce the amount of time that the pump is on below 1 minute, then maybe somehow I can reduce the amount of water that's going through the nozzle. Seems simple enough. So I started to look at nozzles from other manufacturers of rain systems, and to be honest, they all seem to use the same nozzle, or a very similar variant of, which kind of makes sense because the general amount of people that are going to buy rain systems is very small, so you don't expect to see hundreds of factories making all different designs because it's just not profitable. So then I had to look elsewhere. So I headed over to eBay and started looking through spray nozzles for other applications, and I actually managed to come across some that I thought would do the job. So I bought those, I modified my system. They've been running in here for a couple of months now, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Now, because I saw there's lots of other people that kind of having this issue, I thought I'd make a quick video on how I've modified my system to fit these new nozzles, and obviously show you how they work compared to, you know, the old nozzles. In hope that it helps someone out. Now, this procedure does require quite a bit of modification to the system, so it's probably not a solution for everyone, but it's an option for you. So what we'll do is we'll go through to the kitchen, and I'll show you the parts that I bought and how I fitted them. Okay then, so here's the nozzle here. Now if you look on eBay you'll be able to find these fairly readily. Now they come in all different size, aperture sizes. Now I started off with a 0.1 and it was way too small, so I then had to order some 0.2s. Now the 0.2s are working fairly good, I'm fairly happy with it, but to be honest they're a little on the lean side, so if I was to buy these again, and I still might change them now, I'd maybe go for a 0.25 or a 0.3. But you'll see in a bit exactly what the 0.2s are capable of. But for now, I say the 0.2 is working fine. Now when you get these, if you just put these in your system as is, they won't work. There's some bits in here we need to take out, which I'll show you in a minute, but also there's some stuff we have to do to the system as well, otherwise you'll blow your pump up, which isn't good. So first thing you need to do is unscrew the end here, and being careful not to lose the parts. Now this little part in here, do not lose this because it's incredibly important. That's what actually creates the spray, so if that's not in there, you'll just get a jet rather than a spray. Now somewhere in here, if we give it a tap, you'll see a little spring and a rubber bung on it. Now that's in there basically as an anti-drip system, so the sprayer doesn't start until it reaches pressure, and once it switches off you don't get water constantly dripping through it in the system. Now the problem is this is designed for more industrial applications, so a lot higher pressure than most rain systems can produce. Generally a rain system on a diaphragm pump will produce somewhere between 100 to 120 psi, and it's just not enough to open this. So if you just put it in, it just won't work. So first thing you need to do, take that out, throw it away, you don't need it, and then take your little pin here, put it back inside and screw that back on. So that's now ready to go. So if we head over to the vivarium, we'll see how to fit it. Okay, so we're going to try and do this without spooking Dash too much, because he's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? Now fitting these is actually relatively simple. As you can see here, this is my original spray head, and all I've done is I've taken a hacksaw to the nozzle that was on it and cut it off, and luckily when I had a look, the internal bore of that pipe there was exactly the right size that I could just screw the new nozzles straight in, and they cut their own threads and held really well. Now you want to try and get as straight a cut as possible, otherwise the O-ring on the back of the spray nozzle won't seal against the spray bracket here, and it'll just leak, which isn't good. If you do get a rough cut, just take a file to it and just file it nice and flat, and it will seal up again. Now originally I did have just one in here, and that was absolutely drenching the place. Now I've taken it up to 2. As I said before, the 0.2s don't spray quite enough water as I'd like, so maybe 0.25, 0.3, but I'm in a position now where if it's not spraying enough water, that's not much of a problem, because I can just raise the amount of time it's on. So instead of having 2 bouts of 1 minute, I now run it for 2 minutes in the morning, a minute at lunchtime and 2 minutes in the evening, and it seems to be working pretty well. I've got the nozzle heads out of here at the moment for cleaning. We'll go over that in a minute, so I can't switch it on the moment, but near the end of the video we'll show you them working. Now you can't just screw the nozzles in. Again, as I previously mentioned, if you just screw the nozzle straight in and turn your pump on, you will more than likely blow your pump up because it will overpressurize. Now these nozzles don't allow as much water to go through, so that allows water pressure to back up in the pipes, so we need to relieve that. Now it's going to be quite hard for me to explain what's going on here because there's pipes going everywhere, so what I'll do is I'll knock up a diagram to make it a little bit easier for you to work out, but I'll do my best here. So we've got the line from the reservoir into the pump, which is just a straight line, dead simple. Now it gets a little bit more complicated when it's coming out the pump. So at this point we've got pressurized water coming out the pump straight to a T-piece. Now T-piece feeds it back off to the reservoir, and in my reservoir on the end is a dripper nozzle that came with it, and basically I use that as a valve to regulate the amount of water I'm relieving from the pressure line. From there it goes to another T-piece which splits it off, and I have non-return valves on there to stop dripping and all sorts, and then it runs to each tank individually from there on. Again, not the greatest explanation from here, but it'll make a lot more sense when you see the diagram. And basically all you do once you've done this is set your valve or dripper head, whatever is on your relief valve, to fully open, switch the pump on, and basically slowly adjust the amount of water that you're relieving back to the reservoir until you get the required amount of pressure in the line to spray these. I've got the heads out at the moment, so I can't switch it on, but in a minute I'll kind of be able to hear the sort of sound mine's making and see what the spray's like. Now unfortunately this isn't a completely maintenance free system. I live in quite a hard water area, and we're using nozzles that have quite a tiny diameter hole in them, so they are prone to blocking up with calcium deposits, just like a shower head does really. So we do need to maintain them every now and again. I usually take them out and give them a clean every 2 weeks or so, but occasionally if I'm coming down getting ready for work, I'll notice that one of the heads isn't spraying properly. I'll take it out and give it a flush through. So what I'm going to do now is just show you a couple of different ways that you can quickly clean them. some people may see it as a pain. Personally, I find having to clean these nozzles out is much easier and less hassle than having to drain my tanks out. So it's kind of up to you really. So let's have a look here. We'll go into the Christie's vivarium. And all you do is you don't actually screw the full nozzle out. It's just the end cap. So as long as it's not too tight, unfortunately I need two hands to do this. So all you need to do is, grip the main body and then just carefully untwist this front bit here, sorry about that. Being very careful not to drop that little pin that's in the end. It should be in there. There we go. So you can see the pin's in there, and that's it, it's out. So if we just nip through to the kitchen now. Okay then, so I've got all the three nozzle heads here, and the first thing to do is basically to remove these little pins and put them somewhere safe. Now, the easiest way to do this is to just get a little basic syringe here, fill it full of water, and then if you press it hard up against the front face of the spray nozzle and basically force water through it backwards, that should clear out any blockage. 9 times out of 10 that is all I have to do, and it's good to go again. And basically what you're looking for is a steady stream of water coming out the bottom. If it's got a partial blockage, it'll come out at a slight angle, or it'll have a little bit of spray to it, or if it's fully blocked you'll get nothing at all. And you just press it on there, and we're looking for a nice straight steady stream of water coming out. I didn't seal me syringe on the top very well. You do have to put quite a bit of pressure on this to make a seal on the top. There we go. So there's a nice steady stream coming out of that. It's all good. Now occasionally, if you've left it a little bit too long, they can get a bit of a pain to wash out doing this. In fact, I had one earlier that was like that. Now to cure that problem is dead simple. Shot glass with a bit of lemon juice in, drop them in, give it 5 minutes, and everything's good. Now if you are lucky enough like me to own an ultrasonic cleaner, they're not expensive. They're about 35–40 quid from Maplin, somewhere like that, and useful for all sorts of stuff. Just put them in your shot glass with the lemon juice, fill your ultrasonic cleaner with some water, drop the shot glass in and switch it on for whatever amount of time you want. And when it's done, take it out, give them a rinse, give them a quick blow through with the syringe, and they're good to go again. And that's all there is to it. Okie dokie, so here it is running. So these are the 0.2mm nozzles, and you can see the sort of spray they produce. It's quite a fine spray, more of a mist, and it dampens down the soil really nicely, keeps the plants nice and wet, gives the gecko something to drink, but it doesn't absolutely flood the vivarium. In fact, to be honest, the 0.2s are doing quite a good job at the moment of keeping a balance between water going in and water that's evaporating off. Since I've put these in, I haven't had to drain my vivariums at all, but yet everything still gets a decent drink. So I managed to get the balance quite nice with them. And here it is from the Christie's side. Now going back to the reservoir here, we can actually see now this is the sort of amount of water that I'm relieving from the system, so as I don't over pressurise the pump. In fact, you can hear the sort of noise the pump's making at the moment. Now if I was to start blocking this up, you'll hear the noise of the pump change. There, if you stop it, if it's sounding like that, you need to relieve it a little bit more. Otherwise you're going to drastically reduce the amount of life your pump's going to serve you for. So all in all, this mod works absolutely brilliantly for me. Okay, so that's my modified rain system and how to implement it and how to maintain it. This system now runs absolutely perfect. I couldn't be more happy with it. Yes, I have to wash the heads every now and again, but it's a small price to pay to not drown everything in the vivarium. So hopefully this has been of some help to someone. It can solve your flooding issues too. Thank you very much for watching.